Hello, I'm Dr. Phil Burian with DataSync Solutions in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. My colleagues and I, unfortunately, we couldn't be there in New Orleans, but we really appreciate the opportunity to present our topic of merging technology solutions with business operations. I think you'll find this presentation to be of interest, and I'll get started. As far as overview, I'm going to talk about what really drove or motivated us to write this article and present this to you today. I'm going to talk a little bit about technology timeline, kind of where we are today with technology, our approach, which is a technology and operations equilibrium approach, what that equilibrium architecture looks like, and then I'll summarize it for you, and that'll be it. Before I get started, we've made some very, very good, really great strides with technology today. I mean, if you look back compared to the 40s and 50s, some of the things that we have today are just incredible. I mean, look at our smartphones as a good example. Well, just like technology, both business and technology are not static. They're constantly evolving. They're very dynamic. One thing is, though, the focus has kind of been on technology. It seems like we kind of lead with the technology, and then our business operations kind of follows the technology direction. With that said, we know that the rising cost of ownership in most businesses has increased substantially over the last few decades. And what happens as a result of that is we start looking for cost reductions. We start trimming, and when we start trimming, we cut out in some cases functionality and in some cases operational aspects of the organization that really take the focus off of the customer. But today, we need to merge business and technology. They must become more or less one, and they must support each other. The solutions today, they exist. And I'll be going through those a little bit further in the presentation. As I said, the we find ourselves today off in a much different direction, and really, this change of direction is based on three changing technology fundamentals. The first one is escalating economies of scale. We have low cost internet connectivity. You've heard a lot about the cloud and cloud services, deployed software, um, application interconnectivity. The applications used to be very, very locked down and very unique, very much in a stovepipe. Today, we have open and standardized application program interfaces or APIs, allowing us greater flexibility to integrate across a broad spectrum of software applications. And, it used to be, as I kind of, alluded to before, the software today, these platforms are a lot more configurable and have a lot more functionality than they had in the past. So let's look at that timeline just real briefly. You could see from the 60s and 70s on the timeline, all the way from the mainframe to the current environment, which I have labeled cloud on the right hand side. But if you look at the mainframe era, it was in a centralized data center. We developed all of our apps. It was very high cost, and it took a lot to support these platforms and these data centers. In the 80s, we moved towards client server architectures and technology. Desktop OSs began to appear and become a little bit more functional. Um, Productivity apps started to come about, and it kind of opened up in the 80s an era for us where the user was a little bit more empowered and had control over the products and services that they delivered and documents that they developed and things from their desktop. In the 80s and 90s, we saw kind of a big uh, a big event happened, and that was kind of the co-location center. Now, co-location center was they were set up all over various places in the United States. Internet service providers, in some case, had them. Private companies had them. And what they were is they were off-site facilities, and in some cases support services offered, where all of your apps, hardware, storage systems, all those kinds of things could be located. And that really kind of, I would say, for the first time, we started to migrate away from the centralized data center concept into remotely putting our applications in off-site facilities. In the 90s, I kind of tagged this era as the e-biz or e-business era. We started to see, and again in stovepipes, but we started to see applications like enterprise resource planning systems, MRP or manufacturing systems, customer relationship management platforms, and e-commerce. We started to see those applications and some very large ones that were developed. And for the first time, businesses started to use these e-business applications in a manner, in running business operations like they've never had before, where they had the support of an application platform that could help them. They could leverage, I should say, to help them deliver their products and services to a customer. And all the way to today, you've heard of the cloud. I mean, pretty much everybody has heard of the cloud, and we refer to it as that. It really is. Think of and I'll show you a little bit later on in the presentation, of an entity that really it's out there. We can get services on it. We can put our applications, hardware, software, you name it. All of our e-business applications can be run from there. With very little effort, implementation effort, I should say, in getting those things remote or relocated to a cloud type of service provider. Now, with that said, kind of gave you a little picture of where things are going from a technology timeline standpoint. Today, you probably will relate to this in most of your organizations today, is that what we have layered technology. And you can go into most companies today and you can take a look at that technology. And you can see from a hardware, software, or application database standpoint, it's all layered. It seems like we just keep adding layers of technology, some of which are compatible and some not so much. Some require a lot of integration, and that's where the focus is. Our IT organizations and our business operations people focus really on making it work because it needs to be integrated, it needs to be threaded. But all those layers add a very high cost of ownership, and that's both from a one-time and a recurring operating expense standpoint. In fact, those costs in most organizations keep increasing every year. And what I like to refer to that as infrastructure heavy and customer light. And I'll circle back to that in a minute. In fact, on the next slide, I believe, where we lead with the technology and we keep bolting the technology to the floor, but we really don't think much about the customer and how do we leverage our businesses to better support our customers. For those of you who are technology people in the room, this probably looks familiar. If not, this is kind of what we have in most of our companies today. We have data centers, we have business apps and servers, database servers, storage arrays, all of our local area and wide area network components and things. And this is what we have. And this is what we've implemented, and this is what we support. Now, the funny thing here is all of these things that I'm showing you on this slide, you own it. It's yours. You bought it. It's probably being depreciated. All the operating expenses that goes along with it and upgrades and things like that, they all belong to you. So this should sound pretty familiar to most business people today. Our data center is out of space. We're going to have to expand floor space, all our power, cooling, electrical. We just don't have enough room, enough capacity. We need to migrate to the next version of the application, and obviously we're going to have to develop it because we developed it in-house. We need to purchase more server hardware. We need more storage space. We're out of it. So we're going to have to put more disk drives in the drive arrays. And by the way, I did develop a lot of these, so I'm going to need time to build and then support this application after I get it implemented. Does this all sound familiar? It's funny. All of these things, with all of these things said, there's no mention of business operations or the customer. Now, our approach is that the technology is a strategic asset. It's not just a standalone decision, one-time decision that I make, and I throw it in the closet, I flip the switch, and that's pretty much what I have. Hopefully somebody doesn't bump into it and turn it off. So our customer lifecycle model, we look at the key revenue and profitability factors of the organization because those are important. We have to know what the profile is of the organization. We have to know how you conduct business. How do you approach your customer interactions? How do you deliver service delivery or order processing or whatever you do on the front end of your business? And basically, what this helps us to do, this customer lifecycle model, is it helps us identify solutions that you can use to improve your profitability. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. So again, our approach considers the entire life cycle. It considers the investment, the customer, and our approach doesn't suggest to go bolt the technology to the floor and then go look for a problem. And that's typically what we do today. We bolt it, and it's nice and shiny object. We go after it, we grab it, we bolt it to the floor, we turn it on, and then all of a sudden we go, gee, I wonder what the problem I was trying to solve is. I'm not quite sure what I was after. Our approach and our team approach is that we take the problem or challenge, we try to determine the business requirements, the goals, what the business is trying to achieve from an operational perspective. Then it's design and engineering, testing, deployment, and then obviously support and maintenance. The upfront things are very, very critical to developing a good solution and placing the focus where it should be, and that's on the front end, trying to get new customers or provide products and services to customers. So our model, based on everything I've talked about today, is we like to refer to it as technology and operations equilibrium. Our framework is a comprehensive approach. Again, we want to maximize your investment return. If you make a big investment, a capital investment, we want to make sure you're getting something back for it. And if you're getting something back for it, the savings that you're achieving leaves you more time and more dollars to focus on your customer. Now, take a look at this equilibrium slide. I really didn't know how to show it or graphically here, but I think it tells you the story here. If you look at the left-hand side where it says design and development and it says initial cost, yes, I build it or I buy lots of it, I develop it, I deploy it, I've got a large investment in it. Then on the right-hand side is all the recurring costs. You know, just because we build it and we buy it and we support it one time, those costs don't go away. There's a lot of recurring costs that happen on an annual basis for support, enhancements, and another category which I put on the slide is called hoarding. I've been with a number of organizations throughout my career, and it seems like there's always one person that ties up a zillion-dollar platform to do one thing, and it's like 50 years old. But we don't upgrade it or enhance it or get rid of it and do something else. We just keep accruing the cost of what it takes to keep the system up and running. Well, what's funny is you built it on the left side, all the recurring costs, You own it. Those are all yours. At DataSync, we believe that there is a technology and operations equilibrium point. And that is by performing thorough business analysis, maybe cost benefit analysis, looking at really what you're getting for your investment. We believe there's an equilibrium point. And we've seen it with a number of our customers. We've seen it based on the experience that we have with literally hundreds of customers. So what does that equilibrium architecture look like? Well, the idea of the equilibrium architecture is to reduce that technology footprint, reduce the cost of ownership, lower the investment cost, but yet provide the products and services that you need to leverage your business at a lower investment cost and recurring cost, and be able to focus and place more of that money on your customer. So if you look at this slide, basically it shows you whether it's a supply chain, your customers, consumers, mobile devices, you can see employees, developers, whatever, that are connected to this concept of the cloud. And inside that cloud are a number of these business applications, databases, web servers, and again, there might be some unique products that I show here, but I think you get the idea. These can be placed in the cloud, utilized in the cloud with an excellent service level agreement or system availability today. Used to be problems in the past, but today there's really good availability of these systems. You can see all your storage space, everything, customer relationship management systems, all your virtualization of your platforms or your applications. This really reduces that footprint that you have on premise. Now, with that said, keep in mind, you got to realize, first of all, you got to realize that you do have an issue, that you do have rising costs. You are investing more and more into your infrastructure every year. You do have some old, outdated things that need to be disintegrated in the current IT infrastructure. You have to reduce complexity and cost. It used to be long ago, the complexity of these systems were incredible, and obviously with complexity more than likely comes cost. But the idea is to reduce that complexity so you can focus more on the front end of your business. And by the way, as I suggested earlier in the presentation, is focus on those business requirements, those goals. What really drives your business? What's the motivation for your business? And basically, at what cost? What are you investing in all this stuff to provide a product or service? And obviously, we have to continue to deliver to our customers without interruption. Now, I want to just talk about that point a little bit here, and that is, you don't have to implement, take the stuff that you currently have and implement things in the cloud overnight. This can be done with a smooth migration, and it can also be a hybrid. You might select to have business applications that need to be there and available 24 hours a day. Others may not. They might reside within your infrastructure or on premise. So it's really, again, that equilibrium. What is a good equilibrium point that optimizes the technology and the business operations, again, to lower the cost of ownership and the investment you're making, and move that cash to providing more products and services or better support to your customer. So I guess a good question to ask, by the way, you can read the article, the journal article that came with, or is with this presentation, and it'll give you a lot more insight in some of the things that I've discussed today. But I think the question you should be asking yourself, and in fact, all of us in all of our businesses today should be asking ourselves, is our approach and is our technology becoming obsolete? If the answer is no, then it's simple. You keep doing the same thing and get the same results. But the time has come when most businesses, and I can't think of many that this doesn't apply to, we have to merge the technology and business operations to reduce the total cost of ownership. Again, the total cost of our investment to provide better products and services to our customers. And by the way, keeping the status quo, as I've said here, it's not going to produce the same results. When I keep layering technology, the answer is going to be more layers. So we're not going to get new results out of doing the same thing. And most importantly, as I showed you with our life cycle approach, you must consider the entire life cycle. Throwing it onto the floor, flipping the switch, is not the entire life cycle. We really have to dig in and fit those solutions to the business needs, goals, and requirements in order that we optimize or find the equilibrium point of business operations and technology. Well, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And my colleagues and I really wish we could have been there. The Clute Institute is just an absolutely terrific organization, and these conferences are just wonderful. And like I said, in New Orleans, what more could we ask for? I'm from South Dakota, so New Orleans probably would be pretty nice from a weather standpoint right now. But I want to thank you for taking time to listen to this presentation, and I hope you have a great conference. And if you have any questions, please contact us. We'd be happy to hear from you. And again, thank you and have a great conference.